government of Ghana. Today, we are looking at the situation in Palestine, specifically Gaza, after the ceasefire agreement. And we are very, very privileged today to have with us in the studio a gentleman who is well versed on issues about Palestine and its liberation. And we have for a facilitator today, Anas Sando, who is the Administrative Secretary of the Office of the Shia Muslim Imam. And he'll be taking us through the topic. The structure of the program has not changed. He will give us a presentation lasting about 10 to 15 minutes. And thereafter, we'll take questions from the studio audience, and then we'll go to our social media platforms and take comments and questions from there. And then we'll give him another 5 minutes to round up. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you in the studio, in your homes and offices, to Wednesday Palaver, and to invite our speaker, Anas Sando, to give us, to lead us in this discussion.
Thank you so much for the generous introduction. Well, without a slight of doubt, thank you once again for allowing me invade your space to delve into the critical or sensitive issue as far as the Palestinian cause is concerned, and as far as the subject matter is concerned, that is the ceasefire agreement and the future of Palestine. Well, you know as well as I do that every open-armed confrontation has its own object or objectives. And the case of the Israeli genocidal onslaught on the humanity of Palestine is not something new. And then we'll just go straight to the point. After October 7th, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the Zionist regime, outlined his aims and objectives in carrying out the carnage, the slaughter, the conscious, the premeditated massacre of the women and children of Palestine. He made mention of three factors: the destruction of Hamas military and governance capacity, and then the second one, to free the Israeli hostages, and then to ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to the Zionist regime. None of these fundamental factors has been achieved, because war, as experts have opined, is a blunt instrument of justice. No matter the high level of preparation, no matter the high level of military sophistication, no matter the high level of battle warfare skill the state has, war does not work according to how it is expected, no matter the level of your preparedness or plan. That is why experts have argued that the only justifiable war is the one that is limited in its purposes, limited in its method, and limited in its intention. Limited in its purpose, why do you go to war? Limited in its method, how do you fight? And then limited in its intention, that is right intention. So Hamas maintains both the governing and military capacity of Gaza till date, despite the carnage, despite the systematic slaughter of the humanity of Palestine. Hamas still holds the military stake and then the governance stake in the land of Palestine. And then with the over 47,000 women and children massacred in the land of Palestine, the war has failed to secure the release of hostages. That means objective number one has failed, objective number two has failed, and then objective number three has also failed, because Gaza will continue to resist strongly. As I talk to you right now, Gaza remains a constant threat, an existential, a perpetual threat to the security of the Zionist regime, as far as the occupation, the oppression, and then the apartheid persist. So the ceasefire agreement can be looked at from two perspectives. That is from the standpoint of the Palestinians, and then from the standpoint of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the Zionist regime, and then from the standpoint of the mediators, that is Qatar, Egypt, and then the United Nations. From the side of Benjamin Netanyahu, after 471 days of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against the humanity of the women and children of Palestine, Benjamin Netanyahu has eventually, all of a sudden, accepted a ceasefire and cited three key reasons for accepting the ceasefire. Number one, focusing on the Iranian threat. That means the war is now being transferred to the people, to the women and children of this, the Islamic Republic of Iran, focusing on the Iranian threat, restoring Israel's military might, and then isolating Hamas. One objective or one fundamental factor that the Zionist regime can consolidate is to restore Israel's military might. That is not much of an issue, but to focus on the Iranian threat, the so-called Iranian threat, and then isolating Hamas are not a practical possibility. Restoring Israel's might is not much of an issue. However, containing Iran and isolating Hamas is not going to be a practical possibility at all, because there is an existence of a clear practical demonstration of mutual assured destruction between the Zionist regime and the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we've already seen the exchange of missiles, sophisticated missiles, ballistic missiles, between the Zionist regime and the Islamic Republic of Iran, despite the consistent and insistent effort by the United Nations to prop up the Zionist regime against the innocent people of West Asia. So neither the United States or NATO, because of the existence of this principle of mutual assured destruction, if you strike me, Iran will tell the Zionist regime, if you strike me, I will strike you and destroy 50% of your population and 70% of your industrial capacity. And the Zionist regime has practically clearly seen the military might of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the level of devastation that the Islamic Republic of Iran can render on the Zionist regime. So a war with countries like the Islamic Republic of Iran will mean suicide for all the parties, and possibly suicide for the Western Hemisphere and then for human civilization. So because of the military might of the Islamic Republic of Iran, there is no country. The United States can decide to align with the Zionist regime to carry out a war campaign or a military campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran, like it did to Saddam Hussein in the Gulf War and then others. But the reason why the Iran stands as a bulwark against any war, against any genocidal onslaught, or against any attempt to wage war on the people of Iran is that there is no country, there is no neighboring country. Iran borders about 12 countries in the Middle East. There is no country that will accept its air base or sea base to be used as a launch pad to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran. And Iran has made it clear, any country that entertains the United States or any enemy to use its airspace or sea base to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran, Iran will raise that particular country to the ground. So it is a clear-cut exhibition of a military caution. It is a clear-cut, manifestation of the principle of mutual assured destruction that Iran has established. So because of that, there is not going to be any, and there is that projection that the Islamic Republic of Iran, whether it is attacked or not, Iran will arm itself with sophisticated weapons like nuclear warheads. And once Iran is pushed to the wall, Iran will definitely acquire. How it is going to acquire nuclear warheads, that is left for the experts to talk about or analyze. So that is from the perspective of Benjamin Netanyahu. He has accepted the ceasefire to focus on the Iranian threat, restoring Israel's military might, and then isolating Hamas. Now, from the perspective of Egypt, Qatar, and the UN, the object of the ceasefire is to halt the fighting in Gaza. That is to establish peace in Gaza, and then to allow humanitarian assistance to get to the Palestinian civilians, and then to reunite the hostages with their families. So this is a comprehensive, a wonderful package that Qatar, Egypt, and then the UN have established. But the most important thing that we want to understand here, there are critical issues that create more puzzle than answer, and these issues question the viability, they question the credibility of the ceasefire, because Israel has that particular history of what? Breaking an agreement, breaking bilateral treaties, multilateral treaties. So the credibility or the possibility that Israel will honor this peace, this ceasefire agreement remains a big question mark. And if it remains a big question mark, it therefore goes to to establish that it is just a ceasefire agreement that has been established just on the surface, but its practical aspect is going to be questionable. And then number one, Hamas wanted a complete end to the war before it will release the hostages, and this is a condition that the Zionist regime has refused to accept. And yet the deal went, the mediators went further to construct a deal. So it tells you that the deal, there are a series of question marks on the deal. And then number two, it is also unclear whether the hostages, all the hostages are still alive. Right now, Hamas cannot be able to account the number of its prisoners of war languishing in Israeli prisons. And then Israel and then Hamas are not able to tell whether all of its captives remain alive or not. So this is another important issue that remains unanswered. It is also not known whether Israel will agree to pull out of the buffer zone between Gaza and the Zionist regime. And this is very, very important, because once Israel does not pull out of Gaza, then the war is going to continue. And then going straightforward to the future of Palestine. You know as well as I do that Palestine has only one projection. The dream of Palestine is to realize its sovereignty, is to see Palestine become a state with its population, with its defined territories, and the capacity to enter into relations with other states, like any other state that we can talk of as far as the international system is concerned. Unfortunately, there was the realization of United Nations Resolution 181, which established that the territory should be separated into two, divided into two, with the Zionist state, which is called the Israeli state, and then a Palestinian state living side by side with each other. But over a century, the Palestinians are still oppressed, they are occupied, and they cannot be able to take their own decision. They cannot be. They find it very, very difficult to establish their own government. So this is an unprecedented discrimination and betrayal meted onto the people of Palestine. So now the most important thing that we want to also make it clear is that from the Western perspective, the issue of the two-state solution is a mirage. It is not a practical possibility. The West has decided to put the issue of the two-state solution absent-mindedly. And then from the Palestinian perspective, they are still dreaming the day Palestine will become a full sovereign entity. And that is not a practical possibility. That is why immediately after this ceasefire, if this ceasefire succeeds, there is going to be an unprecedented level of maximum resistance from Hamas and Gaza. Why? Because the oppression will continue, the occupation will continue, and the apartheid system will continue. And there is no any society, there is no any community, there is no any group of people that will sit and be subjugated and be subjected to series of inhuman torture and being prevented from taking their own decision, electing their own government, deciding the particular economic and political system that should govern or regulate their conduct, by all means, the Palestinians or the Hamas is not going to sit and watch the unprecedented level of oppression, the unprecedented level of occupation continue. So there is going to be a maximum level of resistance even after, because Hamas, as the Israeli, you realize that even the Israeli military top brass are beginning to resign because they've admitted that the war has failed to make the Zionist regime realize its ambitions. The military ambition is not realized. Even the diplomatic ambition is not realized. So the only doable alternative is to establish justice. Justice in the sense that Palestine must be given its full sovereignty, must be allowed to exist as a full sovereign state like the Zionist regime. I hope my time is due, and I will pause here, and if there are other questions, we respond. Thank you so much for your patience.
Well, there's a time for the studio audience, and if there are questions and comments from the studio, we'd like to take them. Please show by hand those of you who are ready to ask questions and to make comments. Just show by hand quickly. We don't have all of the time. I see one. Only one? Okay. So we'd invite Comrade Bada to the microphone. Question, comment, whatever. And then thereafter, we'll go to our social media platforms and take the questions and comments.
Thank you very much, Anas Sando, for the presentation. Clearly, the quest for the liberation of Palestine is on course. And I know one day, some way, somehow, Palestine will be free. My question is, to what extent did Trump play a role in this ceasefire? Thank you very much.
If there's no other question or comment from the studio, we'd like to go straight to our social media platforms, and my pleasure to invite Abdul Haq, to do that. Haq, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. I think we have the text line on the screen for those of you wondering how to send your text. So just copy the line, put it on your WhatsApp, and then you can text us on WhatsApp or a direct SMS. And also, we are streaming live on Facebook. You can just tune in to watch us on Facebook and then input your comment there. We'll pick it directly from there, and then we will share it with our viewers. I'll start off with a few comments that are coming in on our YouTube. This says, today, Palestine is the passion of every human being on the planet. It is personal involvement of every free citizen in the world. We all feel part of a project and a dream together with our Palestinian friends. May they finally find a presence of true peace in dignified living condition in an independent state. Without ever having to flee again, no policy can ever hide the truth. No army will ever be able to kill freedom. We suffer with you and we smile if you are happy. Glory and justice for Gaza. Gaza will never die. Free Palestine. And it's an anonymous account on YouTube. This simply says, Allahu Akbar. Well, thank you for that message. This coming from Charlotte. It says, as an American, we did try to tell him to stop. We failed. I'm so sorry. And that's a message from Charlotte. This is coming from Kwabena, and it simply says, long live Palestine. Well, thank you, Kwabena. Next time, add the location where you are sending your messages from, and we'll add it to this. This is also coming from Evans Asamoah, and it simply says, the ceasefire is a testament to the resilience of the Palestinian people, but it is also highlights the need for a united front. Socialist ideologies emphasize collective action. And this is a time to mobilize workers, activists, and organizations to challenge imperialist powers enabling Israel's occupation. Solidarity campaigns must focus on education, advocacy, and direct support to the resistance. It is not just about ending violence, but ensuring justice and equality. True peace can only be achieved when oppression is dismantled, and this requires the global left to remain steadfast in its commitment. And that's from Evans Asamoah. It simply says the global left to remain steadfast in its commitment. Also coming from Edem Kwashi in East Legon, he says, I salute the socialist movement of Ghana for their bold stance against the Zionist state of Israel. Against the Zionist state of Israel's brutal suppression of the Palestinian people, being a leading voice in Ghana that fiercely speaks truth to power. As the Gaza ceasefire holds, the Palestinian masses must seize this opportunity to rebuild and consolidate their struggle for national liberation. But our fight does not stop there. We must intensify our resistance against the unholy alliance of imperialism, Zionism, and capitalist exploitation, which perpetuates inequality, oppression, and suffering globally. In solidarity with the working class and oppressed people everywhere, we will continue to organize, mobilize, and fight tirelessly for a world where the means of production are collectively owned and the people are the true masters of their own destiny. And that is from Edem Kwashi in East Legon. This simply says, I'm sending my message from Medina, and I want to say resistance are God-chosen people. Resistance are God-chosen people, whatever that means. Free Palestine will solve the issue, recognize it as a state, stop the occupation, and the conflict is solved. And that's from Asameni. Asameni, thank you for the message. This is from Big 88. It says, the shame must be unreal. Don't know how they sleep at night. The shame must be unreal. He's wondering how they sleep at night. This is coming from Ayo in Nigeria. It simply says, great contribution, Mr. Anas Sandu. That was educative. Nancy also says, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, with a broken heart, a crying emoji, and the emoji of disappointment. And that's from Nancy. Iman says, Palestinians are the most bravest and courageous people. May God bring peace and freedom for the Palestinians. His voice is just on point. That's from Ahmed. Ahmed says, your voice was on point. And, okay, so I'll take a few also on WhatsApp. I'll take some messages also on our WhatsApp platform. But you can keep sending them in through the phone number provided on the screen, and also on our WhatsApp, on the text line, on our live streaming. You can share that also with us. Oh, great. This comes from Teresa Boatin, and she says, absolutely on point. Great submission by Mr. Anas Sandu, watching you live from abroad. Hello to you too, Headmistress. We enjoy you. We are happy you are still with us. I think I'll pick more here. And this simply says, actually, Netanyahu is the third prime minister who loses wars, and this is the second time he lost a war. But this is the first time the whole world can see it very clearly. And that's from Ismail Amadou. Ismail Amadou. And this is coming from Alassani in Tamale. He simply says, may Allah be blessed and pleased with you and your reporting. Thank you. This is on Pan-African television, but by the Socialist Movement of Ghana, of course. Wednesday Palaver is from the Accra Collective of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. You can also join us on social media at Socialist Movement of Ghana, on Instagram at the same handle, and also on Twitter on the same handle, at Socialist Ghana, sorry. Yasmin says Palestine will be free. I don't know if I have more time or I can just cut it here because the the comments keep coming in. Okay, so I'll take a last one. It simply says Viva Palestine, and that's coming from Ben Asamoah. Thank you.
Well, comrades, I mean, it's absolutely clear that the Zionist entity has failed woefully in its genocide in Gaza. As of now, we can count close to 50,000 people, two-thirds of whom are women and children, who have been massacred in Palestine. Now, this number does not take account of those who are still buried under the rubble. This is the number of dead bodies that the Palestinian medical authorities have counted, and so on. So it could be way more. More than 100,000 people have been injured, seriously injured in this senseless genocide, and so on. Virtually all of the infrastructure in the Gaza Strip have been destroyed, completely destroyed, and yet Israel has not been able to achieve even one of its objectives. Now, it is significant to note that Israeli newspapers reported that at the meeting, the cabinet meeting to decide whether to accept the ceasefire or not, Israeli ministers broke down and wept like babies. They cried. Some have resigned because they admit that they have failed. Only yesterday, the head of the Israeli armed forces also resigned because of the failure of Israel to achieve its objectives in Gaza. Now, this clearly shows the resilience of the people of Palestine in the struggle. Now, this ceasefire does not guarantee the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. This ceasefire does not guarantee an end to apartheid in Palestine. This ceasefire does not guarantee the right of Palestinian refugees to return to their homeland and so on. So there's still a lot of work to be done. Indeed, what this war has done is to mobilize peoples across the continents, is to mobilize people even in Western Europe and so on, to galvanize the solidarity movement. And now it is possible in Washington, in London, in Bonn, and so on, to have hundreds of thousands of people pouring into the streets in protest against Israeli aggression in Palestine, against the Israeli occupation of Palestine, and so on. So we're making progress, and I think that we should keep on making progress. My pleasure to invite our facilitator, Anas Sando, to round up in 5 minutes. Please round up in 5 minutes.
Thank you once again for the opportunity. Well, regarding the first, the question, the role of Donald Trump in this ceasefire. Yes, to some extent, according to the accounts, Donald Trump has played a role leading to the ceasefire agreement. But what is the significance of Trump's capacity as far as he is the head of state of the biggest military in the world? Trump would have been able to call for an advanced ceasefire right from day one. And even when he was in power, similar skirmishes occurred between the Zionist regime and then the Hamas. One most important thing that we should realize is that it is not the issue of Trump or any American president at all that comes to power must do the Zionist bidding because of the consolidation of the political and economic position of the IPAC, American Israeli Public Affairs Directorate. It is the biggest and most influential group in the United States that influences American foreign policy. They don't care about what is happening within the totalitarian boundaries of the United States of America. Their main preoccupation is the preservation of the Zionist regime. So it is the most powerful. Even some experts will even say it is America is being ruled economically, politically by the IPAC. So because of that, the IPAC contributes to the coming into being of any president of the United States, like Trump. The IPAC have contributed significant amount of energy, resources, and finance to bring in Donald Trump and even Joe Biden. So any American president that comes into power, the IPAC will have him on its fingertips. So the IPAC regulates, controls any American head of state. And then Trump coming into the second coming of Trump, it is a diplomatic gift for the Zionists. If you look at the way he appointed his administration, especially his foreign envoys, the American envoy to the Middle East, his Secretary of State, all of them are diplomatic gifts to the Zionists. They are all pro-Zionist political activists. So they are coming to do the Zionist bidding. And then do not forget that the Zionists can never and ever fight Hamas for full 1 week without the help of the United States, without the lethal support of the United States. All the sophisticated, the intercontinental ballistic missile, the surface-to-surface, the air-to-air, the ground-to-air missiles, the groundbreaking, the game-changing missiles that the Zionist regime has been able to amass and has deployed them to Lebanon, Syria, and then Palestine, are coming from the United States. And even those who are even doing the fighting itself, it's not only the Zionist regime's military, because the Zionist regime, in their attempt to use their own domestic military to confront Hezbollah in 2006, came under severe defeat. Hezbollah summarily defeated or ruthlessly ran over the Zionist regime military. So having realized that the Zionist regime military is like a spider web, is as weak as a spider web, then America and then NATO, Britain and other European countries decided to prop up the regime by way of providing them with state-of-the-art game-changing missiles and the military hardware to defeat the resistance movement. And as we made mention earlier, the Palestinians have reached to a particular point of no return. The only doable alternative for the realization of the ultimate goal of Palestine, and for that matter, for Palestine to become a fully fledged sovereign entity, it is only resistance. Resistance is the only tool, because they've used diplomacy for centuries. It didn't work. If you look at since 1915, 16, 17, World War I, World War II, post-World War II, and what have you, agreements and then series of bilateral, multilateral agreements have been signed. United Nations Security Council resolutions have been breached consciously. United Nations General Assembly resolutions have been breached. Agreements have been signed, regional, continental, international have been signed, and all have been breached consciously by the Zionist regime, and no one can cough. So the only doable alternative for a group of people who were controlling their territory, all of a sudden, people have been transported from around Western Europe and then around the four cardinal points of the world to come and then settle there and become the government that takes care of all, or that regulates the conduct of a people who do not even have the right to the fair share of the domestic cake in Palestine. So if you are being confronted, like South Africa, apartheid in South Africa, a group of people who are being confronted by this will have no alternative than to resist. And when I say resist, I mean armed resistance. So, and that is what the Palestinians are doing. So Donald Trump, for instance, you realize that under international law, Jerusalem was supposed to be a final status, negotiation state. It was Donald Trump who came and unilaterally declared Jerusalem as the capital of the Zionist regime against international law. And no one can cough. So the Zionist regime and the Hamas and then the resistance will continue to exist, and then they will continue to resist until their goal, is achieved. And the last most important point that I want to also raise has to do with, for us, we will also continue within the framework of our academic capacity to continue to champion the cause of the resistance, the cause of the oppressed. And that is the level of contribution we can also do. But for Palestine, for Hezbollah in Lebanon, for the Iranians, they will continue to to persevere and pursue the the methodology of resistance till the Palestinians realize their sovereignty. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Well, on behalf of the studio audience, on behalf of Pan-African Television and all of you who are watching us from all over the world, we would like to say a very big thank you to Anas Sando for spending time with us and helping us to understand the current situation in Palestine. Wednesday Palaver comes on every Wednesday, and all of you, wherever you are welcome to join us in the studio and to continue watching us. The program is what it is because you patronize it, and we really appreciate your patronage. Salute to all of you. Of course, we'll be back on Wednesday with another edition of Wednesday Palaver. But before then, please keep your dial on Pan-African Television because we bring you the best in everything. We bring you the best in current affairs, the best in news, the best in sports, best in everything. Keep your dial on Pan-African Television until we meet again next week. Bye-bye from all of us. Bye-bye.